Today I'm going to demonstrate LeanLaw, our timekeeping and invoicing software built with deep integration into QuickBooks Online. So you're viewing a Chrome web browser, and I have open LeanLaw in the first tab. The second tab is QuickBooks Online. So you can see here is just a normal QuickBooks account. Then I have a Gmail in the third tab. So to start, I want to orient you with the navigation of LeanLaw. So I'm going to start up here on top and show you calendaring. Calendaring is a visual day planner-like view of your time entries. We can also look at week view or even get some information on month view. Time entries is a more conventional list view. The idea that I can see all my time entries for a period or for a particular matter in a list. I could export those to an Excel file, and then I can create new entries here, keyboard driven and bulk entry minded. Expenses are reimbursable expenses. The idea that here's expenses that need to be reimbursed back to the firm because we have expended monies. Billing is our invoicing workflow, and there's a sub menu here that I'll review when we get to actually producing an invoice. Then, of course, matters are our client and matters. Reports are there to augment what you might get in classic financial reports in QuickBooks. In our reporting engine, you'll see timekeeper reports, originating attorney reports, but you're also going to extract QuickBooks data like accounts receivable data or trust balances and put those into reports that help the attorneys understand where financially a client is trending. I have a client I want to work here with called the Window Corp, and you can see the green dot denotes that we've already connected this to QuickBooks. When I jump into the actual matter, so I'm in Matters, Client Window Corp versus State of Michigan. I have the General tab as my first, which allows me to select the originating attorney, conflict check, and notes. Access and rates tell me who has access to this matter and what rate we're charging. You can choose a different rate for a matter or allow the system to default to your standard rate. So a user can have multiple rates, but only one rate per matter. QuickBooks is our QuickBooks tab. This shows us our integration with QuickBooks with this particular matter. We're set to matter client-based billing, but we could have also set this to matter-based billing, which just simply means that the client has asked us to bill the matter and keep the accounts receivable with the matter and not the client. If I ever needed to bill a third party, I could easily override the client billing and add third party. We also have trust accounting set up with this client in QuickBooks, which just simply means there's specific liability ledger set up for this one particular client. And leads billing is there if you need it. I've already done some time entries, so I'm going to step back and kind of show you. Again, this is the calendar view, and if I open up this calendar entry here, you'll see that we have the date, the time, I selected the client, I can add the time via the description. Tasks are essentially customizable phrases that help you facilitate it, so I can drive the description from a task. Any task, excuse me, any time entry can be marked non-billable. We infer it is billable, and non-billable is there to track internally for reporting purposes or to present to the client a non-billable zero charge item on the invoice. This was an hour in time. We track time in either tenths or quarter hours. Um, we also have a second tool called LeanLaw Tracker. This is a desktop tool that we created for those folks that aren't necessarily comfortable or don't want to work in a browser. This is an installed application on a Mac or PC. These are the matters that I have access to with the matter I worked on most recently. So you can see that Window Corp matter right on top. To do a time entry, I just use this plus button. It will drop me back into my day. So my day is all the time that I've built for the particular day. And then again, we have timers here. So this shows the timers that are available. We also have timers on that calendar page. And to do a time entry, I just use this plus button and come into this standard window. Back up to LeanLaw, and we're going to time entries. Time entries is a more conventional list-driven view of your time. I can use these filters to pick what days or what timekeeper or what client I want to look at. I can also use this for bulk time entry or keyboard-driven time entry. So I can do the same time entry that I could in the other places with the same fields. Um, if I head over to expenses, these are those reimbursable expenses. I've already added a reimbursed expense here. So this is this license and fees for $50. I also have the ability to look at non-billed fees, or all my fees, things that maybe I've billed in the past, and I can look up any expense that's been billed and actually see the invoice number and connect to it directly in QuickBooks. So the idea is, how can we get you to QuickBooks as efficiently as possible? So I'm going to head forward and create an invoice. We've got some time, we've got some expenses, and walk you through this workflow. Ready to bill is the time, the work in progress that is ready to be billed. Drafts are draft invoices that have locked time entries that sit in LeanLaw but have yet to be dispersed or delivered to QuickBooks, which ultimately is where you send the invoice to the client. Open are actually open invoices in QuickBooks that LeanLaw is reading. And then, of course, paid are those paid accounts. Now, we also have some trust accounting management here. And in this demo, we have the window corp. I'm going to pick up this client and go into him. We can see that this client has $3,000 in available trust. I also know that my trust bank account, and I'm reading this in real time from QuickBooks, is $70,000, and I offset that with my liability count, which is in sync at $70,000 as well. If I click into this window corp matter, I can see no accounts receivable. I can load all the transactions from QuickBooks. So this is actually reading to QuickBooks in real time all of the historical transactions, or I can run a trust report. If I want to deposit funds, I could do that here. And if I want to record a payment from an invoice, we're going to do that as well. So let's head back to Ready to Bill, and let's actually produce an invoice. I could select all and create batch invoices for everything, or in this instance, I just want to use the window corp. So I'm just going to use this little arrow and do a draft invoice. So that draft invoice has been produced. And I'm going to go to the next step, and here it is um, with an invoice date of 7/31, and here's the draft invoice. Now, LeanLaw has automatically put in that trust statement for you, so we can show the client what we're actually going to do. I can edit any of the time entries that I need. I could save sections for later, so I have lots of flexibility. If I ever needed to, I could undo the draft, or if this was a leads client, I could produce that leads. I'm going to approve and submit. Now, of course, I don't need to go in to every individual invoice and approve and submit. I can easily go in and do it in a batch level here. So now that invoice has been passed over to QuickBooks, which means my accounts receivable has been staged and I'm ready to deliver it to the client. And I can access that by clicking into the invoice here and just saying view in QuickBooks, or I can head to QuickBooks, head to sales, which is very straightforward in QuickBooks, and there's that invoice right here. And LeanLaw has set up the invoice format. We actually even putting the matter name on the invoice. One last step though, if you remember, this was a trust client, so I'm going to head back into the trust account and I'm going to make a payment. So I'm going to find my ledger here, open it up, and record that payment. Now what that's doing is sending over account instructions into QuickBooks to write a check out of trust, decrease the liability, deposit that check back into operating, and make a payment on the invoice. So LeanLaw is just sending those instructions, but for your purposes, you get to see just this, a paid invoice with a trust statement put on the memo pad so the client knows exactly what has happened. So it shows the balance forward, the matter name is on it, everything's blocked in service groups, and most importantly, that retainer management. So I've walked you through in LeanLaw how to get from our time entry, our expense entry, and a basic invoice workflow. Thanks so much for watching.